to the February 9th, 2026 meeting of the Carver School Committee. I call this meeting to order at 6:01. If everyone could please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everyone for being here. We are going to start with our Project 351 Ambassador.
Yeah, we're so excited for recognition this evening. I'd like to invite up Mallory Doyle, who is our Project 351 Ambassador. Mallory, if you don't mind coming up. So let me tell you a little bit about Project 351. Project 351 is an independent, nonprofit organization that builds a movement of youth-led service by allowing each of Massachusetts' 351 cities and towns to select one Project 351 ambassador each year, based on their demonstration of leadership, service, and commitment to their local community. The ambassadors are united for a year of leadership and service to transform their communities, elevate kindness, and gain courage, compassion, and leadership abilities. Mallory was nominated by the Middle High School Teachers, Guidance Counselors Administration to be Carver's representative this year based on those qualities of leadership, service, and commitment. So congratulations, Mallory, it's outstanding. We're excited that you are our Project 351 Ambassador.
Thank you.
And what happens for Project 351 is they have a launch day, which is typically the Martin Luther King Day weekend, that Monday of Martin Luther King Day. So Mallory went to the Project 351 launch and is going to tell us a little bit about what you did there. So Mallory, what happened at the Project 351 launch?
So when I went to the launch, we first met our group and we talked to the group members that we were with, and then after that we had a ton of guest members speak, which was really inspirational. And then we went to I forget the place that it was called, but we went to this place and we did health kits. We made a ton of no-soap blankets. We did these cards for people just brighten their day and stuff, and we just did things just to help people out that don't have things that they need.
And then as the Project 351 Ambassador, you select a community service or an activity that you want to bring back here to Carver. I don't know if you've selected that. Have you selected that yet?
Yes, in the spring we are doing a clothing drive. All donations will be going to Cradles and Crayons, so anybody that would like to donate, that would be greatly appreciated. And
then tell us a little bit about how did you think of the day?
It was really fun. I got to meet a ton of cool people. I made a few friends there, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And some of our Project 351 ambassadors have that opportunity to make connections with people that they stay friendly with well beyond this service year in 8th grade. And some students go back and serve as mentors for Project 351 ambassadors. So it's really been a strong program where we're always happy to participate in it, and we're excited to have Mallory as our representative this year. I don't know if the committee has any questions for Mallory or thoughts or.
I have one question. Did they read the poem that the students wrote that day while you were all together?
Yes, everybody had the service leader, and everybody wrote a poem for the. Oh yes, sorry, that was something different. Yes, they did read a poem. They write one every year, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know that this was the first year that I just happened to see it online. I just thought the message was really great. So, congratulations on being selected. Thank you for being there. And we'll have to make sure we put the clothing drive on our radar. We can always contribute as well. I know I constantly feel like my closet, my clothes grow overnight. Thank you for being here and for sharing your experience.
Thank you for having me.
Right, Mallory, congratulations.
Congratulations. So great to see them all celebrate. Come together. Okay, so next we have an introduction.
Yeah, so I'd like to introduce Joseph Clarity, who's going to be serving as our student advisory representative. Joseph actually came forward and volunteered for the position, said he's interested in this, wants to get connected with really civics and local government. So I'll give Joe an opportunity to introduce himself, talk a little bit about what his interests are, and then we actually have some other students who have demonstrated some interest in being part of our student advisory board. So we haven't met this year, but we're looking forward to, over the next couple weeks, I'm trying to get that group of students together, and we'll schedule a meeting with the representatives from the school committee and try to bring that back. So we're excited about that opportunity. We're excited that Joe has stepped forward and wants to be part of it. So Joe, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit why you're interested in being the student advisory representative.
My name is Joseph Carver, as previously mentioned. I'm the student rep. I was mainly interested in becoming the student rep because I wanted to better communicate the voices of the students and better get their opinion out there, because it is very, well heard, but I want to make sure that even the small details are still heard as well. And I wanted to try and better our school community in any way that I physically can.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Joe. We're glad to have you here this evening.
Thank you, I appreciate
And
it.
as I said, we're going to be working on putting the advisory group together and setting up the first meeting with the school committee the next month or so.
Yeah, that's great. And hopefully, maybe some of those students will want to go to perhaps Day on the Hill. I know that's like way later in the agenda, but that's great. So welcome. Thankful to have student voice back on the committee with us. So is Tom with us this evening?
Tom should be here.
I'm looking at my agenda. Sorry, wrong tab. There he is. There he is. Hey, Tom.
Wait a sec, we can't
Yep,
hear
we can't
Tom.
hear you yet.
Give me a second.
Shocking.
All right, go ahead now, Tom.
Woo.
All
Welcome.
right, go ahead, Tom. Yep. Low, but yes, we can hear you.
I'll speak loudly if I need to.
You're good.
I'll speak loudly, something usually people don't have to tell me, but I'll do my best to. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Alright, first I want to thank Scott for reaching out to me today prior to this budget presentation, kind of some impacts it could have on our members. I look forward to watching it. Ron typically does a great job. Health insurance is my main concern, as we're looking at a lot of moving parts, and we're trying to find ourselves a safe landing zone. It seems though that budget concerns and health insurance concerns are common theme across the South Shore. Ron and I kind of talked about briefly what's going on in surrounding communities at the last Gateway meeting. So again, I think it's something impacting everybody, probably across the Commonwealth, And then lastly, I hope everybody enjoys February break. Get a chance to recharge the batteries and get through that super long month of March. It was a tough one. Let me get that. But that's all I have tonight.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right.
Thank you very much, Tom. For those who may be here for the first time, sometimes we experience some feedback with Google Meets. Okay, so next we have Captain's Council.
Yeah, so we're excited to have our basketball captains, Matt Lennox, Kyle Carey, and Nate Helms here. And come on up, guys.
So we like pull whole chair.
You can pull
Slide
chair,
chairs right on
up
up
too.
with you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Or not.
There we go.
Technical
Didn't know you were
difficulties
trying
all
to fix a chair
around.
tonight,
Broken one.
but there we go.
So my name's Nate Helms. I'll first be talking about the girls basketball team. So currently our girls basketball team has a record of 8-7, and they're ranked 18 in the league power rankings. So they just put up a big win against Abington. Josie Helms scored 24 points. Maeve Zacharuski had 10 points and 13 rebounds, and Kaylee Perry scored 8 points. Friday, February 6th was the girls' senior night versus Rockland. Sadly, they didn't end up winning, but it was still like a good night for all the girls' seniors. I think we had 3 seniors. It was Maeve, Kaylee, and Julia Fernandez. Julia Fernandez isn't currently playing because she has an Achilles injury, but other than that, the night went pretty well. So.
I'm Matthew Lennox. I'm going to talk about the boys basketball team. We're currently 9-8. We're one spot at a tournament. We have 3 games left. Cohasset Tuesday, and then we have senior night Friday against Mashpee, and then we have a game against Cape Cod Academy the following Monday, and then we're hoping to win one of those and get into the tournament.
So next I'll be talking about wrestling. So Carver Wrestling has recently had an exciting victory over Division II team Bridgewater Raynham. So I don't know what division we are, but obviously like Bridgewater Raynham's a very like much bigger town, so that's pretty impressive. They had some outstanding matches, being Aaron Reed's victory at 150 pounds, Reed Doherty's victory at 165, Coastland Tully's win at 138 pounds, and recently Mikey Brennan has reached an impressive milestone of 100 wins. So don't see that very often, but great job for him. And yeah, that's it.
I'm Kyle, and I'll be talking about the track team. The men's winter track team, or the boys winter track team, is doing well. We have had multiple athletes qualify for states and break many school records. We are now approaching the state championship meet, and more athletes are like closer to qualifying than before, people who are like getting impressive about it. And we are undefeated so far and have had a great season, and the goal is to defeat Abington and then win the league for the state championship for boys. And then for the girls track season, we have seen many PR, many school records beaten by Hazel Butterworth, Emma Wall, Grace Keneally, and Alyssa Verdon. And then on Friday, February 6th, we competed for the championship against Abington and had many state qualifiers for the girls to go to states. And the girls also won the meet Friday and now are South Shore League champions.
Congratulations to them.
They've been crushing it. Both
Track
sides
team's
have been,
good.
track
Yeah.
has been crushing it this year.
Seriously.
All right, well, thank you very much.
All right.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
and
thank you
hopefully boys basketball
Good
team
luck.
makes the tournament.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
here.
I don't want to put this through.
Every day I feel like every time there's a track meet, there's a record falling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Come back anytime.
We got to practice.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to comments from the general public. So if there's anyone here with us in person that would like to speak, you are welcome to do so by coming up to the table. If there's anyone online, if you would like to be recognized to speak, if you could please just type your name in the chat so that we can call upon you. I'm not sure who we have, if we have any outside people. Oh, I know
We
we
do.
send an emoji. I feel like every time I go into this, it looks different. Okay, so there's no one in the chat. No one's made any movement towards the microphone, so I will close public comment and we'll move to the approval of minutes for the open session from January 12th, 2026.
I move that we approve the open session minutes from January 12th, 2026.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that brings us to communications. Are
So
there any
we have no
communications this
new
evening, Mr. Mead?
communications this evening.
Thank you very much. So that will bring us straight to reports from the superintendent and personnel updates.
And since our last meeting, we have had some personnel changes. So new hires, Glenn Mayer is a long-term substitute music teacher at the middle high school. James Logan is a third shift custodian at the middle high school. Peter Hulsky as the baseball coach at Carver Middle High School. Sean Collins is the girls tennis coach at the middle high school. And Crystal Cole Mahoney in food services at the middle high school. We've had some transfers. Braden Boyle, second shift custodian at the elementary school to second shift custodian at the middle high school. John Borgeson is third shift to second shift custodian at the elementary school. And we've had a couple resignations. Derek Howard, second shift custodian at Carver Middle High School. Sean Maroney, special education teacher at Carver Middle High School. And Glenn Schaffner, ESP, special education at the middle high school. And we've had one announcement of the retirements we last met. So Jackie Perkins has formally announced her retirement, and she'll be retiring at the end of this school year.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that update. This next update is about the concession stand.
Yep, so Ron's going to take us through a little update
Very
and
exciting.
review of the concession stand. Ron, give me a second to pull up the presentation. That'd be great.
Oh, I love the logos. For Old Colony and Greater New Bedford, those are great logos. Not that our logo isn't great. Our logo was great.
But we can hire others, it's okay.
Right?
All right, we should
I
be
think I've
good to
seen the
go.
logo where they mentioned all the districts on it. Maybe I haven't paid close enough attention before.
Trying to make my little window smaller.
Yeah, so this project, a quick context again, we were working on this concession stand, if you recall, back when we first built your football stadium, an old concession stand that was part of that project had to come down. And the scope of the stadium project couldn't include building a building as part of that work. And so there was no new concession stand at the time. It's back in 2017, 18, right? We've since then taken a look at a couple of options to try to build something that meets the community's needs while also just trying to be thoughtful about the cost of these projects, in 2024, 2025. So one of the proposals back in 2023 we let's go look at was just to build some partnership with our cooperative partners in some of the vocational schools around us. Obviously, we work with Old Colony on a regular basis, but we also developed some partnerships with New Bedford Vocational as well. And between those two schools, along with our school's team and the town's team, sort of combined our efforts to bring this project to fruition. So I'm going to give you a quick set of highlights here. The large majority are just some snapshots throughout the process. You can see where we've gone from the beginning to where we are today. So starting with that partnership, back in November of 2023, we engaged with these schools to explore what that partnership would look like. Happy to say that they were really excited to have us on board as well, because they're always looking for opportunities for their kiddos to get real life experience in all the different trades. After some work getting the partnership finalized and formalized in winter, about December 2024, we started working with Old Colony's design team and got full design, about 90% design by the end of that school year. So the next couple are just pictures of the design and the design process. And we did a number of different iterations as Mr. Neef kind of goes through some of these things. Some of it was sort of good feedback from their design team, thinking about what would make sense on that space and that footprint, as well as some feedback from some of the stakeholders here in Carver. Their staff and students were kind enough to do some 3D imaging of what it would look like, and I'm happy to say that the final product is very similar to what that original vision looked like just a few years ago. So after design, foundation was poured winter of 2024 going into 2025. Again, it's not super exciting foundation, so if you want to click through some foundation, that's an important part of our process, but it's not really exciting stuff. But we found a good window of time, and the team that we hired for that were fantastic, able to come in and find that nice window of time with the temperatures just right to get foundation squared away for us. Fast forward to winter of 2025, we began framing and rough utilities. Again, that's really where the partnership with New Bedford Voc comes in. They've got a great great plumbing program and a great group of kiddos who came out, did all of our rough plumbing, and sort of continued to do their finished work on the plumbing as well. So we see here just some images from the framing process. That's the interior where they're cutting out the service windows. Those will be the 4 service windows, essentially looking at the stadium's bleachers. There's your rough utilities, of course. And then that brings us to spring of 2025. So this past spring, we started doing the envelope and the siding work. That's really when it starts to look like a building and start to really look and feel like the finished product. And that's really taken us to where we are today. You can start to see the siding going up there. I will say kudos to Miss Russell for all of her work, her collaboration along with the OC students and staff on getting that design work to make sure that the logo fits with all of our other logos, same with the color scheme and all of that. They did a really nice job putting all that together. And now we're on interior work, and so that started this winter, early winter. They've continued with interior work, which has been great timing because obviously envelopes fully, buttoned up. We can start to get the heat on in there a little bit. They've got these portable heaters, which has been really helpful for them. And they're in the process of doing like drywall, mudding, sanding. Painting's going to start in the next cycle. Just as a reminder, they work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and obviously not in the summer. So the project's taken about almost 2 years now, and we anticipate that the project will come to a close really the end of this spring, getting close to the end of our school year. But that's a picture. I went out there the other day just to give you a sense of like this is what it looks like if you saw it, yesterday or a couple days ago. They've done an awesome job across the board, and we're thrilled about the partnership. We're excited to be able to deliver this to our community. We think it's going to be a great addition to the athletics program, and not just our school athletics, but all the other programs in the community who use that field as well. We anticipate the end of May to be ready to open, and finalizing occupancy and those sorts of things through April.
Excellent. I know.
So excited.
We're going to have like a grand opening. We're going to have like a ribbon cutting. I know. It's the I don't know, like a reason to celebrate, right? It would be great. I know.
So what we are planning to do is not necessarily a ribbon cutting specifically for the concession stand.
Yep.
But what's being discussed at this time is, because we also remember we have the banner project, which the school committee approved
Yes.
in the fall. So the banners are close to being ready to be put up. So I don't know if you've been into the foyer by the gym. We've taken out the display case. We're ready to put up the plaques. So we're thinking of having some sort of a ceremony for the banners and the plaques, and at the same time, because I think it's going to be the same, we're looking at May. So we're going to be looking at the same time of we're going to make it one big celebration.
Yep.
Banners, plaques, concession stand. There was even some discussion about inviting the community to come down and see the new cafeteria furniture, because maybe all those in the community haven't seen that, and kind of making a little bit of a ceremony and a recognition of all those things: the cafeteria furniture, the concession stand, the banners, and the plaques.
I had a question about the banners and the plaques, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. Even despite the many presentations that we did, I started getting questions from parents about them being taken down. They want to know what's happening with the old banners. Could they buy them?
That hasn't been decided yet. There's certainly been discussion about that. So, but I don't have a formal.
Okay.
We don't know exactly where that's going to go yet. But
Several people
there's
have
been
expressed interest in purchasing their banners.
Yeah. So the boosters were interested in what's our approach going to be on that. Whether they're going to view that as an opportunity to sell the banners, or if we're just going to give them to people. Or so they're not going to be discarded. So certainly we're open to having a discussion about what happens with the banners that are on the wall currently.
Perfect.
Excellent.
So
Thank you for that.
more information to come on that.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right? Yeah, it's great. It's all good things.
Any concession
things.
stand questions?
No, it looks
It
great.
looks fantastic. They did a wonderful job. I'm so excited.
So appreciative of the partnership. It's great to see students do great things. Okay, so that brings us to the AP Honor Roll report.
Yeah, just one sec. All right, so we just want to recognize that we found out a few weeks ago that Carver High School has been selected as part of the AP Honor Roll for the second consecutive year. So they just started this recognition a few years ago, and so we received a bronze. So I'll tell you a little bit about what that means and how we met the criteria as a bronze school in the AP Honor Roll. So the AP Honor Roll recognizes schools whose AP programs are delivering results for students while broadening access. Schools can earn the recognition annually based on criteria that reflect a commitment to increasing college-going culture, providing opportunities to earn college credit, and maximizing college readiness. There's 4 levels to the award: platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. We've earned the designation again for the second year of bronze. Overall, 31% of high schools in the United States earn some level of recognition, but that also means that 69% of high schools did not earn some sort of recognition. And I'll review the baseline criteria for recognition. So this recognition puts us in the top third of students offering AP exams in the United States. So the factors are college culture, which means 40% or more of the graduating class took at least one AP exam during high school. So that's the minimum threshold that you need to meet, which we met that threshold. College credit, 25% or more of the graduating class had a qualifying score. And remember when we talked about AP exams, the qualifying score is 3 or higher, because in some colleges that 3 or higher will earn you college credit, depending on the school you're attending. Most state schools recognize a 3 or higher. Some private schools it has to be a 4 or 5, and they don't recognize all of them. But the AP, the College Board views a 3 or higher as a qualifying score. So at least 25% of last year's graduating seniors had at least 1 3 on an AP exam. And then college optimization. That means 2% or more of the graduating course took more than 5 AP exams during their high school career. And that at least one of those exams were taken in 9th or 10th grade. So obviously they're encouraging students to take as many AP exams as makes sense. So we met that standard of having 2% or more of our graduating seniors last year take 5 or more AP exams, including one in 9th or 10th grade, over their high school career. The breakdown overall is of the schools that were reckoned, 7% of all schools received the platinum, 7% of all schools received the gold recognition, 10% of silver, 9% of bronze, and obviously we were one of the 9% that received the bronze. So this is just a tribute to our students and our teachers in the AP exams, recognizing the success in terms of making the AP honor roll. And I don't know if anybody has any questions or...
I have a question. Is there a list somewhere of all the different schools?
I'm sure that I do not have a list, but I'm sure it's on the College Board website.
Okay.
That you can probably go out and see all the schools that made the AP honor roll.
Excellent. I just want to say congratulations to all of our students and thank you to all of our teachers. I know that taking an AP course is something that requires a lot of dedication and commitment on both sides of the desk. So thank you and congratulations to everyone on their hard work. And congrats to our district for their recognition. Okay, so unless anyone has any questions, that brings us to the curriculum and staffing changes to support the FY27 budget.
Just give me a second to share out that presentation.
Excellent.
All right, so our budget presentation is kind of going to be in 2 parts this evening, because we're actually going to be doing some we're proposing some restructuring for next year. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to present to the community and to present to the school committee some proposed changes for next year. Now those changes have budgetary impacts. So I'm going to do the first part of the presentation and go through these curriculum and staffing changes and discuss the rationale for them a little bit. And then Ron's going to follow up with the budget presentation, and then we'll highlight how these curriculum and staffing changes would be reflected in the budget, if that makes sense to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
So the first one is we're going to make a transition. We're going to adopt Portuguese as a world language offering and phase out the French program. So we're going to look to transition beginning next year from Portuguese to French. Over time, Spanish has been our most popular offering, so we offer Spanish and French right now. This is just an overview of the numbers for the last 20 some odd years of students enrolled in both Spanish and French, the Spanish being the orange line, the French being the blue line. You can see we had a little bit of a decrease in French over time, but it's actually built back a little bit recently. But this is something we've been considering for a little bit of time. For a couple of years, we've been looking at making the possibility to transition to Portuguese, and I'll talk a little bit why in a second. And the opportunity to do that is now because we currently have one French teacher, and that French teacher was considering or talking about retirement, and we were saying as that French teacher went into retirement, it would make sense that this would be the time to make the transition to Portuguese. And then through conversations with that teacher, she's going to, in essence, do a little bit of a phased retirement. Because we want to give the students who are currently in French the opportunity to maintain and finish their French program. And I'll highlight that right now as part of the presentation of how that's going to look. And the teacher said, I'm very interested in staying with those students over the next several years and kind of just reduce my load, from full-time to part-time to a smaller part-time role to support the transition of students who are currently in French 2. So every student who's currently in French 2 would be able to finish the French program with this plan. And at the same time, as we're phasing French out, we're going to bring Portuguese in. Certainly ask questions as we go along. The Portuguese and Brazilian communities in Massachusetts are growing. This in Southeastern Mass. This is just an overview of why we've been considering making the change from French to Portuguese. So you can see that there are city and towns, certain areas throughout Massachusetts where there's been a growth in Portuguese and Brazilian communities, and we think that offering Portuguese would be more a reflection of the population of Southeastern Massachusetts. There are some schools who have already made this transition, specifically in our area, New Bedford, Durfee, Dartmouth, Taunton, Old Rochester Regional, and Fairhaven have already made this transition to Portuguese. And as I said, this is a visual representation, and we're going to do the numbers on the next slide. Is next year we'd have a little bit of Portuguese, some French, still mostly Spanish. Obviously, we can't project numbers out specifically over time, because students are going to have the opportunity to take both, have that choice of Portuguese or Spanish. And this year, actually, for the second half of the year, our Intro to Foreign Language course, which is taught in 7th grade, is going to be, instead of being French and Spanish, it's going to be Portuguese and Spanish. So our 7th graders will have the opportunity to select Portuguese or Spanish next year as a course. And so obviously the Portuguese, the green's going to grow, the blue's going to decline, but we're going to keep that French program alive for a couple of years. What does that look like in terms of actually numbers and offerings? As I said, if you're currently in French 2, you'd be able to maintain the program. So next year we would offer French 3 and French 4 and 5. The next, 4 and 5 is typically a combined course. The next year we would just offer just French 4 and 5, and then 3 years out we'd offer French 5. At the same time, next year we'd offer Portuguese 1, 2 years out we'd offer Portuguese 2 and 3, 3 years out we'd offer Portuguese 1 through 3. And in essence, 4 years out, French would be removed and a full Portuguese program would be in place. So the goal here is to be a transition, to maintain those opportunities for students who are currently in the French program. The only place where that would be a block is if a student is currently in French 1. The majority of our students in French 1 are 8th graders, so next year we'd ask them to reselect either Spanish 1 or Portuguese 1. Okay. So that's our first curriculum change. Any questions about the transition? I'll go back a slide, I guess. Any questions about the transition from French to Portuguese? The rationale behind it is we just feel like Portuguese is more relevant. It's really the key. As I said, it's something we've been discussing at the middle high school for several years, and the opportunity of our French teacher retiring or moving towards retirement, and actually very grateful that she's willing to make this transition. So she has agreed to this plan. She's excited about this plan and staying with us for the next 3 years to let students carry out the French program.
Do the 8th graders that are in French 1, do they get credit for foreign language towards graduation?
Yes, towards graduation. They don't earn credit for the course. So it counts as French 1, right? And so it counts as meeting as they go towards college. Because we don't actually have we don't have a foreign language graduation requirement. But colleges, most of your four-year colleges require students to take a minimum 2 years of a foreign language. Your state schools, if you take 3 years of a foreign language, you generally don't have to take a foreign language there. You can. And they count that 8th grade French 1, Spanish 1, Portuguese 1 as the first year of a language through the college admissions process. But so they don't actually earn credits towards their graduation.
I understand that. So theoretically, if an 8th grader was in French 1 and then they took Spanish 1, Do you think that would meet the criteria for most?
No, they want it to be 2 years of the same
Same
language.
Okay.
So the other opportunity that we'll have for students in French 1, if a student feels strong that they want to stay in French and take French 2 or French 3, we'd have online opportunities for them. Through virtual high school, there are online opportunities there, and we'd be willing to honor that. So if a student who's currently in French 1 in the 8th grade, honestly, our recommendation will probably be for them to look at Spanish 1 or Portuguese 1. But if they said, no, I want to maintain this, I want to get my 2 years done, we'll offer an online opportunity for them to take French 2. And then French 3 if they need to, or French 4. If they wanted to continue out the series and go through French 5 online, that is an option we would give them.
Anyone have anything else? This has been a topic across the state. That a lot of districts, like you had mentioned, have started to transition away from French, unfortunately. I'm sad to see it go because that was my language of choice. But I recognize that it's in the best interest of our students, and I just want to say thank you. I know that it was, I think it was very creative for our district to come up with a way to do this, and I want to say thank you to Madam Peavy for agreeing to taper so that students can finish out French who are dedicated to it.
So Ron's going to talk about what this looks like in the budget. This does have a budget impact for next year, but that's not why this decision is being made.
Yes.
This decision is being made for budgetary reasons, but we should talk about the budget impact.
Yep.
So currently we have 4 full-time foreign language teachers that offers what we call equivalency, 3.6 equivalency, because the department chair teaches 3, not 5 classes. So next year this actually is a little bit of a savings for us because we're going to be able to manage the class size and the class load by just reducing the French teachers to 0.4. The year after that, we're going to have enough Portuguese students that we're going to have to hire, in essence, a teacher to replace the French teacher who's retiring, but then keep the French teacher on at 0.2. So our service delivery here will go up by 0.2 by 1 class because we're going to maintain that French 4 or 5 class. And that's for the next 2 years. So in this plan, we know this year it's actually a little bit of a budgetary savings for us. Next year it's going to be a little, compared to this year, it will be an addition because we have to replace that retiring French teacher in essence. And it actually will be a little bit more than what we're currently offering within the current school year because we're going to keep on that 1 section of French 4-5 and that 1 section of French 5. So it does, I just wanted to explain the budgetary impact, which Ron will show as we go through the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're very fortunate that we're able to put that into place.
Yep.
I know that many districts, when they remove a language, it's just there's no transition plan. And this is great that our students are going to have opportunities. So thank you for that.
Okay. So our second curriculum restructure is we actually want to add a position next year. We're going to add a 0.5 video production teacher. So currently we have the TV production studio, we have the TV studio, and the courses in the TV studio are actually being run by the English department chair and the social studies department chair, Mr. Yule and Mr. Cully. So next year, we want to transition and hire a full-time video, a part-time, a 0.5 video production teacher. What that will do is that will allow Mr. Yule to return to teaching all English, and that will allow Mr. Cully to return to teaching all social studies. We're going to see later on in the presentation that one of our proposed reductions is of a social studies teacher. So that will return some sections to social studies that Mr. Cully currently gives to video production. That's part of the reason for this decision, but the real main reason is ultimately we feel strongly, Mr. Yule does a great job. He loves video production. He's been involved in it for many, many years. Since way back 20 years ago when we had the TV studio in the building, he ran a Video Explorer stuff. So he's always been involved in video production. He loves it. But certainly, his primary role in the building is the English department chair and as an English teacher. And so the video production piece is a secondary piece for him, even though it's a passion of his. Mr. Cully was just brought in a couple years ago and decided, because there was some opportunity based on numbers that we could run less social studies sections. So we invited Mr. Cully to join Mr. Yule in running the classes in the video production studio because that was growing. We had more students interested in taking that, and we had the ability to maintain lower class sizes and in essence pull a social studies section. And that's how Mr. Cully got brought into this. It was really based on student need in those areas. So this gives us an opportunity to bring someone in whose training and background is in video production, and then someone to own the studio. Because I think someone owning the studio is going to help it grow. And when I say own, obviously I mean a teacher who says that's their direct role. Their direct role is to be involved with students in that production studio, be in there full time, learn all the editing software, or probably going to hopefully know all the editing software, know all those things, be able to run and grow that program. So we have this great space in the building that is a little bit underutilized. And our goal here is that by increasing the staff here, we're going to be able to better utilize that. And the goal would be long-term that we'd be able to grow this to a full-time position. So this would be the start of that transition towards a full-time position. So any questions about the video production teacher, the proposal to add a video production teacher?
Anyone have any questions? I think it's a great opportunity for the visual and performing arts pathways and for students. So
Yeah. So next we have one additional addition. We're talking about adding a .5 music teacher. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So our music program has been growing in leaps and bounds. The elementary music program is strong and has brought a lot of students interested in specifically chorus. And Jillian Griffin, our middle high school chorus teacher, has maintained that interest. So this year we have 50 students in 6th grade chorus. We have 46 students in 7th grade chorus. We have 17 students in 8th grade chorus and 39 students in chorus 9 through 12. We're projecting that we're going to bring in an additional 50 students in 6th grade next year. So next year, if we didn't add a .5 teacher here, 6th grade chorus would be 50 kids, 7th grade chorus would be 50 kids, 8th grade chorus would be 46, assuming we maintain, the last couple of years we've generally maintained, the numbers might change 1 or 2 students. And then when those 39 kids go up to the high school with the seniors leaving, the high school chorus would be 50 students. So Ms. Griffin would have over 200 students, a caseload of over 200 students in grades 6 through 12. So looking at those numbers and trying to grow the program, our proposal would be to add a .5 music teacher, and we'd split the 6th grade chorus, we'd split the 7th grade chorus, 8th grade chorus would stay 46, one class. 9 through 12 chorus would stay one class with 54 students. And then we'd also have the opportunity to add a couple high school electives. So again, helping to build that performing arts pathway, that visual performing arts pathway, which that pathway right now is a little bit undeveloped. So when we've talked about pathways in the past, and we've talked about some of our pathways are more fully developed than others. And I think both of these positions, adding the VPA visual student, the video production teacher, and the music teacher, will help solidify and grow that pathway and give students opportunities in that pathway who are interested in the performing arts and the visual and performing arts. So any questions about the addition of a .5 music teacher? So what I will say is that these things are things we probably would be considering if there were not budgetary issues. It's something that the middle high school, the administration and staff has been talking about for a couple of years, saying for a couple of years I've been saying if I had the opportunity to add positions in the district, I would add a full-time video production teacher and certainly look at a music teacher. And because I think that's where our growth is. And I think we were going to look to take those opportunities. So if we were not if we did not have a budget shortfall, I think we'd be looking at our numbers and saying it makes sense to make some transitions here and restructure. And that's why we're calling this a restructure. Really what's being presented here this evening is a restructure with some reductions. And we'll talk, but I think our numbers support this transition. So now we're going to shift from the new curriculum pieces to the reduction side. So what would the reductions be to support this and have a balanced budget based on the number that we currently have from the select board? So the first would be a reduction of a history teacher. This would be a non-replacement of a retirement. So we have one history teacher who's retiring, so we would not replace that position. Currently, in grade 6, our average class size for social studies classes is 20. In grade 7, it's 21. I separate those up because those are the teams. And then grades 8 through 12, it's actually 16. And that 16 is actually a wide variance. There's some social studies classes as low as 10 or 11, and there's a couple that are as big as 21 or 22. So there is a variance there. But if you looked at all of our high school classes in social studies in grades 8 through 12, the average class size is 16. Next year, with this reduction, and now we talked about Mr. Cully. Mr. Cully would be teaching less video production, and he'd be adding a section of social studies. The average teacher teaches 5 sections, so in terms of total section reduction in the building, by reducing this position, we'd be reducing 4 sections, because Mr. Cully is going to come back under this plan and teach social studies. So grade 6, the class size would be 25. But the reason why the grade 6 class size is going to be 25 is because we have 97 students coming in to the 6th grade. And those 97 students are going to be one team. Okay? And so when you have one team with 97 students, there's 4 sections. It's going to average class size of 24, 25, 26. We've done this in the past. We've had class sizes of 90 to 100, and we've had one team. So this is consistent with what the district has done in the past. Grade 7, the average class size would be 20, based on there being 2 teams in grade 7. And then based on the reduction of sections, we're still all the courses we currently offer, we're going to still offer all those courses. And our projection for 8 through 12 class size would be around 20. So overall, the impact would be our 8 through 12 increase of class size from 16 to around 20. Again, there'll be a variance there. There'll be classes of 15 or 16. There'll be classes of 24 or 25, especially when you get into the high school schedule and you're looking at electives. But the intent is here there'll be no programmatic change. Every course that's being offered in social studies at the middle high school this year would be offered at the middle high school next year, just with a little bit larger class size. So any questions about social studies teacher?
I'm appreciative of the fact that we're able to continue to offer the same number of classes. So our students will have the choice. I mean, none of us want to be in this situation where we're looking at any reductions of any kind, but it's mindful, and I appreciate that.
The second is a reduction of a phys ed teacher at the middle high school. So again, class sizes, looking at it, grade 6 currently is 20, grade 7, 19, grade 8, 16. Grades 9 through 12, and there's 2 breakouts here. There's 9 through 12 general phys ed, and then there's 9 through 12, there's elective courses, and the elective courses we're currently offering are platform, mindful fitness, health and wellness. So you can see the class sizes for this year, ranging from a small of 16 in 8th grade to a high of 21 for the 9 through 12 general phys ed classes. The thing I need to point out is currently 3 of our classes at the middle high school are co-taught, meaning there are 2 teachers in the class with these numbers. So it's not 2 classes of 25, so it's not 50 people in the gym with 2 teachers. It's 2 teachers in a class that may be of this size. So I think that naturally that supports, not naturally, maybe that's a strong word. I think it makes sense for a reduction within the phys ed department, honestly, just based on the numbers and based on our class size. And when Ron gets into the budget side of the presentation, he's going to show you some. We're going to look a little bit at a comparison of a little bit of the decrease in our population at the middle high school in terms, or district-wide, and how it correlates with a decrease in actual birth rate within the town of Carver. There are less students in Carver. And so we're going to look at those numbers a little bit. So the proposal would be next year would be no co-taught classes. But again, going back to that concept of a teacher teaches 5 classes, 3 right now are co-taught. You remove those 3 co-taught classes, you're really only eliminating 2 sections next year. So our class size will stay pretty similar. Again, the feeling is the 9 through 12 might get a little larger for the general phys ed classes, with the projected class size around 25. But otherwise, they're going to be very consistent with our current class sizes. And again, the same concept of we're not proposing to offer any different classes. So every course that's being offered currently in physical education at the middle high school would be offered next year. So any questions about phys ed teacher?
Nope, same sentiment, right?
Right.
Yeah, you can.
Well, I'll wait till the budget presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
And our last reduction of a teacher would be a reduction of one teacher at the elementary school, one grade level teacher. And we'll look at our class sizes. These are our current class sizes at the elementary school. This year we have 90 students in kindergarten with 6 teachers, with an average class size of 15. 122 with 6 teachers. So obviously we have 6 teachers each grade level. And the class, I guess I won't read the whole chart to you, because you can look at the chart and see the numbers. Obviously 4th grade's a little bit of that's a big class. And the decision there is to maintain the 6 teachers there because of the teaming model. So in teams, obviously if there's a 7th teacher or a 5th teacher, that impacts the teaming model at the elementary level. So we're in teams in grades 3, 4, and 5. So the proposal for next year would be a reduction of 1 teacher, and it would be in the 1st grade, so there would be 1 less 1st grade teacher. So in 1st grade for the 90 students, we would have 5 teachers with an average class size of 18. Otherwise, the classes would stay consistent with what they are now. They would have 6 teachers for their current grade levels, projecting keeping 6th graders in kindergarten. Obviously, if you look, our population has been fluctuating a little bit. The elementary school currently has 3 classes that are under 100. You got the 96 in 5th grade, which we talked about is coming up to the middle high school, and that's why we're going to have the 1 team. 94 in 2nd grade, only 90 this year for kindergarten. Right now, we can do some very low-level analysis and do a projection of what it will be for next year. We actually get the live birth rate from 5 years previous. The numbers are up a little bit, so we're projecting that this class, kindergarten enrolling class, has a chance of being over 100 to 110. You never know what the exact number is going to be, but we feel like this, from at least what we've seen in comparison to past data, that this class won't be 90. But ultimately, we can't promise that. But our expectation is this class will be up over 100. That's going to be coming in this year. So the goal will be to maintain 6 teachers there. So the impact is certainly, we're going to have a little bit increase in class size, because currently the kindergarten class has 15 kids, 14 or 15 kids in the class, and that would go up next year in 1st grade for them to 18 or 19 kids in the class. Any questions about the elementary reduction?
No, I think we all wish we weren't in this situation.
And then the last one was actually the reduction of 2 inclusion ESPs, educational support professionals at the middle high school. So currently, we have 4 teachers and 2 ESPs who support the needs of 42 inclusion students in grades 9 through 12. The teachers are assigned by grade level. And looking at the numbers, we believe the 4 teachers will be able to manage the caseload of what we're projecting to be 43 students, with the support of other middle high school ESPs. So the 2 ESPs that exclusively support the inclusion students right now are not the only ESPs in the middle high school, or they're not the only ESPs at the high school level. There's ESPs within our programs who also service students in high school classes. So our belief is that we're going to be able to, we know we're going to be able to meet the needs of high school inclusion students with the 4 teachers, maintain them at a grade level. So we'd have 1 teacher at each grade level, with the support of other middle high school ESPs that currently support our programs. So it's not like they're not going to have any ESP support. And you also have to look at the numbers. These students are full inclusion students, so they're fully enrolled in typical classes. They have a supported study during the day with their special education teacher, but otherwise, beyond that, they're fully enrolled. So they're not pulled out from the curriculum in any way, from the general curriculum. And this is the class size. So currently in 9th grade, there are 9 inclusion students. 10th grade is 9, 11th grade is 13, 12th grade is 11 for 42. Next year, we're projecting 11 to 12. That's based on students going to Old Colony. The current number is 16. So in the 8th grade, there's 16 inclusion students, but a couple of those students will be going off to Old Colony or other high school choices. So we're projecting it to be 11 or 12. And then the other numbers carry down, 9 in 10th grade, 9 in 11th grade, 13 in 12th grade. That's certainly an appropriate load for an inclusion teacher to maintain. I would say in many districts, the average caseload for an inclusion teacher is 15 to 18 students. So we're not going to see 15 to 18 students for any of our grade level inclusion teachers with the 4 teachers. And, so part of it becomes, what becomes a challenge a little bit at the high school level is many of these students we pride ourselves on a wide variety of electives at the high school level. A wide variety of program offerings. And so these students aren't all in class together, right? So if the teacher has to be providing inclusion support that's on their IEP in specific classes, we have to manage the schedule so they can get out to all those classes. But we looked at our current staffing and our current students and said we could meet those needs this year. And it's going to be a very similar structure next year. And then next year we're going to know that going in. So there might be some opportunities to have some students come together who aren't currently together in classes to minimize the inclusion role. So we think this is a model that makes sense and is maintainable over time. So we think we can maintain this model beyond next year. This isn't a one-year solution. And it's a model that makes sense. So that brings us to the conclusion of curriculum and staffing changes to support a balanced budget. And I'll take any questions. If we don't have any questions, then we'll transition over to Ron for the budget side of it.
Anyone have any questions? Obviously, we all wish we weren't in this situation, but thank you for that presentation and for breaking it down that way. I just want to note for the community, clearly this is not something that anyone takes lightly. And between now and next year, hopefully our situation for FY28 will be different. And that there's always an opportunity to discuss student needs. And if any parents have concerns, to please reach out to administration to address those concerns directly.
Yep, absolutely. More than willing to have conversations with anybody about these presentations.
Thank you. Okay. Nope. Okay, so do you need us to make a motion?
No, so actually I should have said that. There's no action required tonight. Our timeline here is that we are going to, this is a presentation to the community, just to make the community aware. We'll have a public hearing of the budget on February 23rd, which will give the community an opportunity to come in and weigh in. And even at that time, we won't be asking for a vote. We wouldn't ask for a vote on these proposed changes and budget and the final budget number until March, which is March 9th is right now we're projecting, so a month from tonight. So this was an informational presentation, give the opportunity for people to hear it and give feedback to the committee and the administration.
Thank you for the information. I encourage people in the community to share that information and to attend our budget hearing on February 23rd. So I think that brings us to the FY27 budget presentation by Ron. Thank you in advance.
All right, sorry, ready to go. Yep.
Hi, everyone. So this is just a follow-up from your meeting in January where we did the preliminary budget. We have here for you just the counterpart to what Mr. Neef presented today and gives the totality of the budget in context as well. Your summary is very similar to what you've seen in your preliminary budgets. We'll start with the priorities, go through the operating expenses, balance that with revenue, and then end with an executive summary. That's it. The next one. And so, if you go up just one, yeah. One more down, sir. Right there, yeah. And so your budget priorities are, as they always have been, focus on our educational blueprint and our strategic plan for the school department. As Mr. Neef alluded to in his presentation, continue to maintain level services for all students, and this budget does just that. And then obviously continue to develop the middle high school pathways. And again, as Mr. Neef showed you in the curriculum presentation, the intent here is to try to continue to find ways to expand on some of those pathways that have otherwise just been in the early stages of development. So your operating budget is organized as it's always been, and this is the way that the state of Massachusetts requires us to organize it in these buckets. We'll talk about each of those buckets individually. In your presentation today, we'll start with FY26, show you what you had as a reminder for the prelim budget, and then talk a little bit about where you stand today with a balanced budget. So your first series is the 1,000 series. Again, this is, the large majority of this is district-wide services. It's your district-wide staff, including your central office staff, as well as like district-wide technological infrastructure. We're continuing to invest in your technology, the software side of your district-wide infrastructure. You may remember we talked about capital investments as well, and sort of the hardware side there. Across the state, we're seeing continued increase in attacks for public data. And so part of FY27's investment on the software side of things is to increase the robustness of our data systems, ultimately best protect our data systems for student data in particular. The 2000 series reflects a large majority of what Mr. Neef alluded to. Again, the lion's share of all of your 2000 series is just contracts. So that's going to be your teachers' contracts, your ESP's contracts. It reflects all of your replacement costs for retirements to date. So any retirement that we're aware of, we take into account the amount of money it would cost for that employee, and then think about what the replacement cost would be going forward. Typically, there's a savings there, which is helpful. Also includes some contract services for some one-to-one medically fragile kiddos, as well as some additional software costs there. If you go to the next slide, please. The next slide just underscores some of the items that Mr. Neef alluded to. Again, your additions here include the 0.5 FTE for music instruction, the 0.5 FTE for TV studio instruction, and it also includes a 1.0 FTE for special education ESB. That's a one-to-one required on an IEP that's added to your budget as well. The reductions due to low enrollment are the same as Mr. Neef reflected. It's 3.0 for teachers, 1 PE, 1 social studies, 1 elementary, as well as 2 ESPs across the inclusion team. It also reflects that world languages shift that Mr. Neef alluded to. And what, again, I want to just note for you as you think about the future is that you're going to need to increase that FTE load for that particular department in FY28, right? So not for 27, but thinking about that as we go ahead for 28.
Bill, I was going to ask, does this make sense, the place where you want to ask your question about the budget or not?
I don't really have a question. I just, we were talking about reductions, and in my world, we call them layoffs. And I've had to go through it a few times. And I've always tried to make sure that it was a last resort and it was significantly impactful to the situation. And I'm looking at, we're talking about 2 young, good teachers, and it just doesn't feel as impactful as it should be to take those jobs away and to lose those young talented kids. You're gonna probably hire a first grade teacher again next year because we're expecting a larger kindergarten class, right?
Well, no, that will stay. That grade cohort will stay with.
I mean the year after.
Yeah, and then
Right.
when that first grade goes to second grade, they'll stay at 5.
Okay. And then it looks
And
like
then
you
the
have,
class size will stay the same. They'll be
you have a
18.
couple of big classes coming in to the middle high school in the next few years.
Yeah, we have some large classes coming.
It just seems like a shame that if you are going to replace these teachers in a few years, then you're entering into an unknown category of person. So I really hope that we are at last resort territory here with layoffs and reductions.
Yeah.
That's all I really wanted to say. I figure it's like 0.7% of the budget that we're talking about, and so for me it seems like it's so close. We got to find a way to close that gap.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, hopefully between now on March 9th when we have to vote, maybe there'll be some type of a shift.
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully. I mean, in other words, we all feel the way you do, so thank you for articulating that.
Your 3000 series is a little bit different, certainly, so not necessarily the classroom instructional staff, but it does include a lot of support programming as well. So that's nursing as well as your transportation. Not a huge change really from our preliminary budget to your balanced budget. Still includes, special education out-of-district bus monitors, homeless, foster transportation. One addition that was in your preliminary budget, I just want to continue to highlight, is an additional preschool route as well. So that's an additional bus driver for FY27, so that we have our preschool route, which has grown in size, to be able to keep getting those kiddos to school. Yeah. 4000 series, operations and maintenance. I know we talked about this last time, so I'll be brief with it, but I just want to underscore that this is typically a place where you don't see large increases. Historically, you're looking at just a couple of % increase from year to year. This past year and going into FY27, we've seen a real uptick in the cost of time, materials, and the service contracts that we have, really across the scope of all of our services. In addition, costs for things like repairs at both buildings have really had an uptick, both in terms of the number of those repairs, which is typical at an aging middle high school, but the elementary school is no longer new now, and you're starting to get into like the age where you start getting equipment failings and needing for repair, as well as just the nature of those repairs. The more complex the repair, the more extensive the cost as well. Your 5000 series, again, really no major changes from your preliminary budget. A reminder, this is a combination of your non-health care benefits, so your things like liability, Medicare, things like early retirement costs and those sorts of things. If you have really one takeaway from the financial side of your budget, I really think it remains to be this 9000 series, which reflects your tuitions out of district. You may remember, you think back the past few years, this has been a bit of a roller coaster across the Commonwealth, on a massive uptick across the state post-pandemic, in the 20s and 30% increases across the board for both the total cost as well as enrollment across the state. Carver was not spared on that either. The past few years, we've sort of seen that uptick. And so as you look at the 9000 series going into FY27, that reduction in cost, I think, is a real outlier, and I think it's something that Carver should be celebrating, both for our students, because it means that we're having more of our kiddos able to be served here in Carver with their peers in your community, and certainly from a financial perspective as well. Every student that's here in Carver is usually less expensive to serve than if you're going to go out to a collaborative, and then obviously if you're going to a high-cost private institution as well. And I would say, just anecdotally talking with colleagues around, southeastern Massachusetts, I think Carver is an outlier in seeing a reduction in those costs, where for a large number of our colleagues, we're still seeing that swing up post-pandemic. That next slide just sort of says what I was saying there. Sorry, I did put it in 2 slides for you. But I, again, want to just underscore that with a bit of drill down analysis. I know we've talked a little bit about this in our prelim budget, but I think it's important to underscore it here. Between your prelim budget and your balanced budget, we've continued to see an even further decline in total cost for out of district. So what you see there in that right-hand side chart in the blue is just your special education out of district costs, right? That's not your total special education cost. That's not all your in-house ESPs and teachers. It's just sending kiddos out for collaboratives in private schools, essentially. So in the blue bar, you see that's that total cost in FY27 projecting to go down after several years on the incline. And in the orange, you see the number of students enrolled in out of district. That's a combination of collaboratives and private institutions. And again, that's been on the decline now. We're starting to see some of the yield, some of the benefit there financially. I can't underscore enough, like in terms of your overall financial landscape, this is really the area that saves your budget. I know we've been in a tight spot right now from preliminary to balance, but had this been reflecting the norm that you're seeing across the Commonwealth, I think you'd be in dire straits for your budget, to be plain with you.
Absolutely.
This next analysis, again, still thinking about special education, but maybe like taking one more degree back, shows your entire special education cost. So now this also includes the cost of all of your employees, your classroom teachers that are special educators, your ESPs, et cetera, et cetera. In blue, you see your total change in cost, but the one I think that's the most important, again, is that percent change, right? That steep decline in change has really been a saving point for your budget from a financial perspective. And while you can't assume that's always going to go down, that continued decline has really been a place where you have some savings in your budget, ultimately helps you balance that entire budget. So here's your executive summary, balanced to the dollar, again from FY26 to prelim to your FY27 balanced. Again, the big takeaway here really is that savings you're seeing on tuitions. Everything else is not much of a change. Yeah, I can't underscore that enough, that has been a huge boon for your budget financially. This is just your executive summary, shows you sort of where your costs land, just shy of 90% of total operating costs directed to student services, which makes sense. The balance there, things like operations and maintenance, administration, and 2% on benefits. Again, as a reminder, you had your tuitions costs just a couple of years ago were up to 11%, down to 10, which is great. Pre-pandemic was still at 8, so we're not quite at pre-pandemic levels when you think about that 9,000 series, that out-of-district cost, but we're going in the right direction, which is super helpful. That's your expense side. I'll pause for a moment if you want to drill down, ask any further questions there before we change gears, talk about revenue and how it all gets balanced. Okay. So again, I'll go quicker than typical because we've already done this once. It doesn't change in terms of the structure of how you have your two funding streams since your preliminary budget. You've got state and local aid, which is part one. Then you have grants and offsets, which is part two. We put those together. That gives you all of your revenue. Start with state and local aid. This really gives you the number that you're going to see on the warrant at town meetings. This is how that number is calculated. Yeah, it's a little bit dense, but I think it's important to understand how the sausage is made there. That first top green box shows you all the money all in. It's your local levy, which can only go up by Prop 2.5. There's a hyperlink there if you want to learn more about Prop 2.5 from 1981. The next is your cherry sheet, right? That's all of your state aid. We'll spend a few minutes talking about the cherry sheet at the end. We'll do some analysis on Chapter 70 and how Chapter 70 works in the state of Massachusetts and how it affects Carver. Your local receipts, the better part of $5.4 million. In that local receipt includes pilots as part of Carver's local policy. About $1.6 million of those pilots are pulled out and are essentially allocated to stabilization, various kinds of stabilization funds at the town. So all in, $52.9 million total revenue. This next section, which is called your fixed liabilities, has some change since last time we talked about the preliminary budget. I'm happy to say, so broadly, in general, fixed liabilities are this set of liabilities, set of costs that are shared across all departments. We sort of back those out from the total revenue before we talk about operating dollars. What was there last time was about $70,000 for unemployment that's been pulled out. Our colleagues over in Town Hall have been doing some work on this and much appreciate their efforts as well. They've taken a look at the total cost for unemployment there, indicated that it can be covered through the Unemployment Reserve Fund over this year and next year as well. So that reduces that $70,000 that otherwise we pulled out of the revenue stream. It yields about $48,000 for the school department. When you think about the split of those resources, that helps us get to a balanced budget as well. So all in, fixed liabilities, about $14.5 million. So how do we get to that figure? How do we get to that, town meeting warrant figure? You take that total revenue at 52.9, you back out those fixed costs, you're left with $38.4 million all in. Locally, our select board votes on its set of financial policies. As part of that financial policy, 68.4% of that $38.35 million is allowed to go to the school department for a local appropriation. And so when you take out that 68.4%, you're left with about $26.2 million, an increase of about 3.3% from FY26. And that's the number, that $26,237,430. That's the number you see on town warrant. It doesn't show you all the background, but that's how you get to that number. I think it's helpful to take a couple minutes. I know we do this every time we talk about the budget, but I feel like this is such an important part of how you get a local community budget in the state of Massachusetts. Drill down on Chapter 70. So again, for our folks who are sort of watching first time, Chapter 70 is the part of the law in Massachusetts that figures out how much money from the state goes to all the towns to pay for schools, all things in schools, right? One component of Chapter 70 is this thing called the Student Opportunity Act. They passed it a few years ago. Essentially says like, hey, we're going to improve on this Chapter 70 law, rule, the way it's all put together, and we're going to increase the amount of money using the millionaire's tax to go to schools across the Commonwealth based on their enrollment, right? So both Chapter 70 and Student Opportunity Act driven by enrollment. What you see here is the enrollment here in Carver in blue, organized by graduating class, so every year on average graduating class. And then in orange, you see a sort of mirror of that, a little bit lower, which is the average births in Carver. The state collects that data called live births, but it's officially just the number of kiddos who are born every year, in this case by graduating class here in Carver. So you can see, since 2005 to today, over the past 20 years, yes, you've had a decline in enrollment, but you've had a decline in the number of kiddos who are just born here in Carver. While I haven't run that for other towns in the state in aggregate has lost about 15,000 students just from last year in enrollment. So this is a pattern that really rings true for about 2/3 to 3/4 of all towns in the Commonwealth, that they're seeing a decline in just the number of kiddos who are born, and therefore the amount of enrollment in their schools. So I just want to tie that to something that Mr. Neef mentioned as he talked a little bit about the numbers of staff members that you have servicing students in all different programs. That's ultimately tied to the enrollment here in your schools. Why is that important as you think about your revenue? That Chapter 70, that like set of rules in Massachusetts that figures out how much state money goes to communities for schools is driven by enrollment. You have lower enrollment, you get potentially less money. Now there's a caveat in Chapter 70 that says, hey, the state, doesn't want to take money away from schools, so they do this thing called minimum aid, which is, even though you have declining enrollment, and technically you should get less money, what we, the state, are going to do instead is give you a small amount of money per student to try to like keep your total amount of money from the state flat, which is appreciated, certainly, rather than it going down, but it does mean ultimately that the state funding you're getting is pretty flat. I'm sure you read just the other day, the governor released her budget. As part of that budget, there was 272 communities, so about 85% of all communities in the Commonwealth that are like Carver, have either flat or declining enrollment, which means for Chapter 70, they have a graph that looks like this graph. They get what's called minimum aid in FY27, that'll be $75 per pupil, which isn't a dramatic amount of money when you think about the multi-million-dollar budget you need to operate all the facets of a school department that we just talked about, right? Again, appreciate that minimum aid exists in some states. That's not even a component that does exist. Without it, you would see a massive decline in your total state revenue. But it does mean that for communities like Carver, the local community ends up shouldering the burden each year more and more for your school department simply because the state revenue is relatively flat, right? So while again, it's not, I know we've talked about it a bunch and I feel maybe a little bit redundant, one of the big takeaways that I see every year as I look through the governor's budget is that continued pattern of minimum aid for a large majority of communities in the Commonwealth and that sort of increasing gap between what the state provides and what a local community therefore has to provide, right? So that's how you get the warrant number. There's other components and sort of streams in your revenue that help balance your budget. They're smaller, but I think they're important to just name, so we'll talk about those. They're grants and offsets. The first component of grants and offsets are your annual funding. These are ones that typically come in every year. They vary a little bit, but you can count on these, generally speaking. The ones you have here, circuit breaker, school choice tuitions, some grants, and then preschool tuition as well. I'll start with giving you a sense of what your grants look like. We have an increase from our last preliminary budget using all of the FY26 actuals with the exception of Title I. There's still a federal proposal out there to reduce Title I by 27%. Whether or not it comes true, I don't know. You've heard this theme from me before. I take a very conservative approach to all things budget. That is just who I am as a financial staff member. And so I'm taking that approach of worst case scenario, that does get approved. And what you see there is FY26 minus 27%. Now, if it doesn't get approved, you're in much better shape, certainly. But I prefer not to take an aggressive stance on your revenues. So that's why you see that number as it is. Circuit breaker is your next one. Circuit breaker is your next one. That's actually the largest component of your total annual offsets. And that has grown over the past few years when your special education out of district grew, right? So post-pandemic, those numbers went way up, those costs went way up. Circuit breaker is a component of Massachusetts school funding that says, hey, look, we know it's going to cost a lot more money to service high-needs special education kiddos, especially if they go out of district, so we're going to set some money aside for you. They take a proportion of ultimately what that cost is, and they give it to you a year in arrears. I mention that year in arrears part again because you've seen that increase over the past few years, and you see it increase from 26 to 27 by the better part of $150,000. You should expect that in 28, 29, and 30 to flatten and then go down, because we're now seeing that decrease in that 9,000 series, the out-of-district cost series. So it's good right now. It's helping you balance your budget. That number will go down in the next couple of years, right? School choice. School choice is, since 1993. That's part of ed reform as well. Kiddos who choice into Carver schools from a different community, they essentially charge their community $5,000 per kiddo. That money comes to us. Again, conservatively budgeted, you've got about $400,000 coming in for your school choice students. The last part of your revenue streams to help balance your budget are these one-time offsets. Broadly speaking, you want to have no money there. That is, anytime you have a single dollar in one-time offsets, you're creating a structural deficit. You're using one-time money to pay recurring costs. As you can see from the list there, we've used one-time offsets, especially post-pandemic when there was CARES funds and ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 and all of those different buckets of money to sort of help schools get through the pandemic and post-pandemic education. But the goal really should be ultimately that we bring that down to zero. What you see for FY27 to balance your budget is sort of two buckets. The first is what's called special education prepay. There's a section of the law that says, hey, if you have funding available in a previous year, you can use that funding to prepay some of the tuitions in a subsequent year. I think I talked about as your 9,000 series and the out-of-district costs. You've got kiddos whose services are being able to be served here in Carver. That's happening now, which means you get some of those savings now, which is fantastic. Now, we're only halfway through the year. We're 5 months in. You've got 5 months to go. So that can certainly change. But we anticipate that you can use some of that money. We're going to estimate about $35,000 of savings from 26 to be able to get ahead on FY27. You may not get that every year, but that's one way to help balance your budget. The remaining is just some additional school choice funds that you have there to sort of make up the difference, right? So all in, you're a little under $55,000 in one-time money to balance the entire budget.
I got a question. For the Medicare, Medicaid reimbursements, is that a one-time, and what would that be considered?
Medicaid
Or
goes,
Medicare, yeah.
not Medicare. Medicare is different. Medicaid comes in separately. It gets put as part of the town budget, which goes into the total amount of money that ends up in the warrant. right? So that's like one of those revenue streams that gets like put into the bucket. They back out all the fixed cost, and we get our number. Medicaid is part of that. And so your last bit here, just to give you a summary on all things revenue, what you see on the right-hand side is just your mix of revenue streams. Blue is your Chapter 70 and local taxes, right? That brown color is your annual offsets, grants, and those sorts of things. And that green topper is your one-time. You're going the right direction. I think as a school department, we want to get down to 0 on that green bit if we can, and sort of utilize state, local, annual offsets, things that are recurring when it comes to revenue streams, to be able to cover all of your recurring costs. So here's your executive summary, give you a sense of where you stand big picture. Again, at about $28.6 million, your total operating budget matches your operating revenue. That is inclusive of all of the curriculum updates, all the additions of staff, as well as all those reductions as well. So that's all in. It also includes all of your revenue streams, so all of your state aid, all of your local aid, all of your annual like grants, and all of your one-time funds, things like prepays and so on. All in, $28.6 million is about 3.3% increase on FY26 and is balanced. Next steps, as Mr. Neef mentioned, you've got your public hearing on the 23rd with the goal of trying to vote the budget for March 9th. Town meeting on the 7th, and then if all is voted there and appropriations are set forth, July 1st would start FY27. I'll answer any questions that you have about all things expense revenue.
Anyone have any questions?
No, just thank you. It's a lot, we know. Appreciate it.
And I just want to say that we are so fortunate that we have been so conservative and that we were so particular with how we chose to use those extra funds that came in during COVID, because many districts had to use those funds to cover staffing costs and recurring expenses, and we really did not follow that. We were fortunate enough to not have to follow that path, and many other districts are still trying to recover from utilizing those funds that way. So while this is painful and none of us want there to be any type of a shortfall, we're just very fortunate that we chose to go a different path, because it would be a very different presentation had we not.
Yeah. I'd simply underscore that, again, just from conversations with colleagues just here in the South Shore that are sort of building on those structural deficits, avoiding some of those harder decisions, even incremental harder decisions, but then finding themselves sort of building up over the next couple of years, using one-time money to sort of hold off on maybe structural adjustments, and then finding themselves a few years out really hitting a pretty big fiscal cliff. So yes, you've got $50,000 in here that's one time. That's relatively small for an operating budget of your size. Of course, easy for me to say from the business office. I realize, I appreciate that. But I think that's a testament to sort of the fiscal conservatism, but also just sort of thoughtful long-term vision for your operating.
100%. It could be so much worse. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for all of that detail. I greatly appreciate it. The accountant in me is very happy that you provide us with that level of detail, but I also just appreciate the way that it's presented. I think it's very easy for people to digest and to understand.
I appreciate the spreadsheet too, with the detail in it.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Thank you.
For sure.
Any other questions at this time in terms of the whole budget presentation?
Nope. Summer as always. Yes, there's not a lot of questions left, right? So.
Yeah, which is, you make our job easy.
Yeah, very much so.
In that regard. Not that it's easy to talk about reductions, but to understand, and just the amount of thought that was put into the shifts and the changes by administration. And I know there's been many hours and many conversations spent on getting to where we are, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully things will change before we have to take a vote on March 9th, and it will look a little bit brighter. So with that, let's move on to upcoming events and some great things that are happening in our district.
I will take a look at what's happening in the month of February. So maybe give me.
It's a dance this week, isn't there?
Give me a second
There's
to
all
share.
kinds of things happening. This
What time
is
is the
very
dance?
short month.
I wanted to find out what time the dance was. It's a dance, Thursday.
The Valentine's Day social.
Yeah, what time does that start?
It's 5 to 6:45.
Aw, fun.
Hannah's all gonna be dolled up. She's waiting for this one.
Mine's just
That's
waiting for
very
vacation.
Oh, so today was the 100th day.
Today was the 100th day of school.
Yay!
And,
Oh, yay.
and we have the 10th is SRO Appreciation Day. So say hi to Jim Foxman if you see him.
Yes, thank you very much.
And 100 days of kindergarten on the 12th on Friday. And then we have the Valentine's Day social. There it is.
Please go,
On the 12th
people.
from 5 to
Go,
7.
it's fun.
PTO and Valentine's Day social.
Very exciting.
And then we head into the holiday with the break. We do have we have a senior night coming up for boys basketball and for hockey. So hockey, girls basketball was last week. And senior night for boys hockey is Wednesday, and for boys basketball is this Friday. And then we got the Winter Wonderland dance for 7th graders on the 27th, and the middle school chocolate social. We have some honor roll celebrations happening at the middle school after we come back from vacation. So even though it is a vacation week, we do have an action-packed week with a lot of great things going on.
100%. There's a lot happening.
Oh, sorry, action-packed month with a lot of things going
Yeah,
on.
there's a lot happening in a short
Oh,
month.
it's always great things happening, so we encourage people to participate and come out to school events. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And does that mean that we all get an April, like a February vacation too? Was that like all approved for us?
Unfortunately, no.
I know, it would be nice. A much earned and deserved February break for all of our educators out there.
February's felt like a year.
It has, and
All
all
the
this
snow and the cold.
my
January
goodness.
lasted 10 years, so.
This is true. And we've been so fortunate that so much of the snow has fallen on the weekend.
Yeah.
We've been very fortunate, but there is just so much snow. Anyway, okay, so this will bring us to the financial update.
Financial update. So Ron again.
Bit of a parade of Ron at the end here. So your financial update for February doesn't have anything from Washington, but pretty busy on Beacon Hill, certainly. Again, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at Governor Healy's budget, that came out just a few days ago. I've got a link there to the budget, $63.6 billion, about 2.3% on 26. A couple things that I'll share with you that I think are helpful context for the budget as you think about like the school lens there. The first is that this budget got to tackle in some way a pretty massive deficit with the Massachusetts Group Insurance Commission, GIC for short, the better part of $250 million short, which is pretty substantial. Ultimately, the backstop for any shortage there is the state budget. And so this budget season is going to have to tackle that in some capacity. Some of that is built into this budget, but we expect that the rest of it's going to be in supplementals, which is, again, that happens over the next several months. When you think about purely an education-focused lens, we talked a little about Chapter 70 already. All in, Chapter 70's up about $7.6 billion, up to $7.6 billion. One thing that's important to note, it's up about $250 million on last year, which sounds like a lot, I realize, but when we think about the scale of the state budget, typically your increases have been about $500 million, so $500 million. So it's actually less than what it's typically been, and that's driven predominantly by a decrease in enrollment statewide. I talked about negative 15,000 sort of across the Commonwealth, right? So that's something to keep in the back of our minds here in Carver, because if that trend continues statewide, the state's going to have to rethink how they do Chapter 70. There's a question mark about how Chapter 70 is going to look. Again, the better part of 85% of all schools are seeing that same reduction in enrollment, total reduction like number of kiddos born in their communities. And the governor's budget set per pupil for those communities with that flat or reduced birth rate and enrollment at about $75 per kiddo. Universal School Lunch Program continues to get the appropriation, about $180 million for FY27, so that program will continue. An important note about homeless transportation, up the better part of $7.5 million. that continues to be a growing challenge across the state.
Yeah.
Carver is certainly feeling that as well, certainly on a smaller scale in our smaller community. But we've seen more and more kiddos facing this need and then facing the transportation need as well. Happy to say that Circuit Breaker is fully funded, which is fantastic. Again, I know I'm going into the weeds, and I'm sorry in advance, but I just think these are important to just flag for you in the back of your mind as our advocates here. So yes, Circuit Breaker is fully funded, but part of the way they fully funded it was to use some appropriation holdover from last year, right? So they're kind of doing what we're doing, but on a bigger scale. We're using some money this year, hopefully, to be able to prepay for next year. They're doing that with the Circuit Breaker money that they're going to give us. So I just want to name that, like, it feels like across the Commonwealth, there's this squeeze, and everyone's looking for alternative means to sort of fund next year, including our colleagues up at Beacon Hill. Broadly, governor's budget is very supportive of our school districts, right? I just want to name a couple things that are helpful context. So there's a number of towns across the Commonwealth, especially here in the South Shore, facing some budget shortfalls. If you want to get some context there, I have a couple of hyperlinks for you. A couple of the big factors that other communities are facing, as well as Carver: rising health insurance costs. You've got an interesting article there as well. And then a slowdown in economic growth. So some of like the just general community growth numbers are going down and not keeping up with inflationary cost. Yeah. So if you're looking to see some like context for the South Shore, there's some links there that might be helpful for us. Last bit here is just your warrants for quarter three. You start at quarter three, and with your vote, we'll get those finalized and processed.
Sorry, I clicked
You
off.
good?
Yes, we're just looking for a motion and vote on the warrants.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, they're in there.
Yep, nope, there we go. I move to approve the updated FY27 capital plan as presented.
Oh.
No, wrong one. Sorry. Wrong one. I move to approve the FY26 warrants as reviewed tonight.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the FY26 warrants for review this evening. Does anyone have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now that brings us to the FY27 updated capital requests.
Yeah, so one more Ron memo here for you.
We love
This
the
one's,
Ron
this one's a
memos.
capital. So a little context for our conversation here on capital. As part of like the capital process, similar to a budget process, it's iterative, right? So you start with your wish list of all the things you could ever want, certainly, and then you sort of cross-reference that with the amount of resource that is available, and you prioritize accordingly. So what we have for you today is the administration's recommendation in the committee sort of reprioritize the scope of FY27's capital projects in consideration of the scale of resources that we think are going to be available going into FY27. Yeah. And I'd say this is sort of a function of meeting with our colleagues in town hall, as well as a lot of the department heads across general government, the chiefs and our team across general government. So to scale back our proposal for FY27 to meet the revenue that's available, we propose the following. In facilities and equipment, we propose withdrawing the $25,000 proposal for the elementary mobility and equipment. This is actually just a function of some identified other alternative resources. And so thanks to Ms. Lake, as well as colleagues who are on the capital committee as well, they've helped us identify some means to go through some insurance pathways to get a large majority of the equipment for these kiddos, which is fantastic. And then any of those that are ultimately covered by the insurance. Now we're talking much smaller dollars, well below the capital threshold that we can cover under operating budgets. So appreciative of the guidance there from both our colleagues, the capital committee, as well as Ms. Lake's expertise as well. Our second recommendation would be to postpone the central office and alternative program siding placement at 3 Carver Square Boulevard. The recommendation is to postpone that to FY28. It's an important project we need to get done sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
The envelope on that building has seen better days. And so given that we've got short funding this year, we'll hold that together and do some small repairs to sort of keep moisture out. But it is it's going to be urgent sooner rather than later. And the last is simply reduction based on quotes coming in. We're happy to say that we've been, starting that bidding process for the weight room, and our bids are coming in somewhere around $80,000. So we feel like we can reduce from 100 to 80 just based on bids, which is fantastic. On the technology side, we've got 3 projects. They're actually set here in terms of priority, at least from my recommendation. The first is your network infrastructure. We talked a little bit about that as part of your operating budget. Ultimately, that's the backbone of your network, how information goes in and out of your school department. Our proposal here is to use potentially some one-time resources, so savings in FY26 if possible, as well as pushing on our E-rate reimbursements to try to cobble that thing together. We're front-loading our E-rate. Typically, we do E-rate over a 5-year cycle. We recognize there has been some debate at the federal level about whether or not E-rate should exist or not. And so we're going to push on E-rate now while it is still in place, with the hope that it continues, obviously.
Yeah.
But in the event that it doesn't, we want to sort of get our hand on the maximum resources there, get that infrastructure project done immediately. Student devices, I know we talked about this maybe a meeting or 2 ago. We're fortunate, thanks to Mr. Mills' leadership, to get a grant that helps us get started on that. And again, we look to try to find alternative resources to fund as much or the remaining balance there. And then staff devices, we think we can either bump that out a year, or if there are any additional funding resources, again, find additional funding resources to cover those projects. So certainly not ideal when we think about total scope of capital, but given the pinch that we're in, we think this is the right sort of methodology to go about it. All in, the reduction in capital scope goes from about $820,000 to about $330,000, saving the town about $500,000 all in. You can see the executive summary there between the initial and what we propose as the final. And I'd open it up to any questions that you might have or comments about sort of the capital planning in FY27. Lastly, I'd just say, you usually get the 10-year as well. Nothing in the 10-year would change other than that bump out from FY27 to FY28 for the siding the envelope work that you do at 3 Carver.
I don't know anything about text do siding.
It would be lovely. They
Sorry.
may. They may, you never know.
I mean, it would certainly be lucrative for them to do so.
Yeah.
Siding be a good get into.
But anyway, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I just, it's the way my brain works. Again, thank you for the memo. Thank you for the detail. I know that these were not easy decisions to make. It's the financial situation that we find ourselves in, and I think that the plan is solid as it can be at the moment. Barring my winning the lottery. Not that would solve all of the problems,
Right.
because it wouldn't. But it would be helpful.
Sure.
So, does anyone have any questions?
I'm just curious. I was at a basketball game a couple weeks ago. It looked like they were already working in the weight room, maybe doing the floors or.
We did the demo locally, actually.
Oh, okay.
And so one of the ways we're able to get some savings is not include the scope of demo for an outside contractor for profit.
So it's currently.
Nice.
They just did the
Empty
floor.
space, or?
They pulled up the floor itself out in the weight room, which otherwise would be part of the for-profit contract.
Right.
And that helps reduce the scope and therefore reduce the overall cost, which is helpful.
Nice.
Yeah.
But the weight room is still usable.
It is, okay.
They're still using it. There's a rise
I was
floor
gonna say,
now.
we got
need,
a tournament
total-
coming up.
Right.
Yeah, it's just the concrete,
Right.
it's the concrete subfloor now that's down there.
Right.
And part of the scope of that project would be to, put down a rubberized matting that you see in like gyms and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I know that couldn't have been easy for you guys to,
Kudos
cut,
to Dave
cut
and
that
Ray.
much,
They're
and thanks to
phenomenal.
Jackie and the wonderful Capital Outlay Committee for their
Yeah.
assistance as well.
Yeah.
Finding expertise to find every dollar we can.
Some smart ladies on that board.
Yeah. Anyway, so if someone would like to make a motion to vote the updated capital plan.
I
for
already
FY27.
started it by accident. I move to approve the updated FY27 capital plan presented this evening.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you, Ron.
everyone's
We do have
input.
a capital meeting on Wednesday.
Wednesday,
So
okay.
Ron and I will be attending that Wednesday and present the
The-
new plan the
okay.
committee's voted.
Great. So that's one. I don't think I can make Wednesday. Okay, so that brings us to a field trip for the culinary team.
Pro start.
Yeah, that's their annual competition they
competition?
participate in.
Do we need to do a motion on that?
Yeah, because it's an overnight field trip.
Okay, I move that we approve the culinary team to Pro Start Tournament field trip.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck to Chef and the team.
Yep.
Look forward to hearing about their experience. It'll be interesting to see if they notice any differences now that this is going to be their first year competing with like the full redone kitchen,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. But good luck to them. Okay, so then, wow, we are at reports from the school committee already. Excellent. The Massachusetts Association of School Committees is holding their annual day on the Hill on March 30th, which is a Monday. And they've actually brought it back into the State House. So the programming is going to be in the Gardner Auditorium, where it used to be years ago. And then lunch will be in the Great Hall. I cannot recommend attending this event enough. The programming is always great. It's always great. We are so fortunate in Massachusetts that we have so many representatives and senators who are pro-education. That is not the case in every state across the country, and we're very fortunate that Massachusetts as a whole, in terms of our legislature and government, is supportive of education. So I highly recommend attending this event. It's always great to hear what other colleagues are facing from across the Commonwealth and also hear student voice. It's great to see the student reps and hear their stories, because their stories are the stories that our senators and our state reps and at the federal level are going to remember. They're going to remember their stories. That's what sticks with them. So that's why I feel it's important to have students there, because they're the ones that, when they sit in those meetings, they're the ones that can really make the connections from just a number to an actual child. So it's from 9:30 to 12:30, and I will be reaching out to schedule meetings to see, hopefully we'll be able to meet with someone this year. That covers our district. But it's also just a great opportunity, again, to go enjoy the lunch that's put on by the culinary teams. I will continue to work on trying to get Carver there. Yeah, it's always quite impressive. The students are really incredible. It's great to see their level of commitment and professionalism and their excitement and being able to serve the dishes they've made and explain all about them. And it's just a great experience. So that's coming up, which is, well, I guess it's the end of March, but it'll be here before we know it, because March is going to go by like that.
No, March is the longest month.
I know. Right?
From an educator's
right?
point
Yeah,
of view.
If you
sure.
do plan on attending, we can register you as well.
Yes.
There's a link right there.
Yeah, there's a link there.
RSVP.
There's a link there to RSVP.
Yep.
Gina, you're so good.
Right? Thank you very much for putting that in there. I, of course, will be attending. We have a board meeting the night before, so I will be in Boston overnight. And I've never been to the Gardner Auditorium, so I'm very much looking forward to that experience. I've heard great things. It's supposed to be a beautiful space, so that's exciting. One less trek to make while you're in Boston. Does anyone have any?
Yeah, I don't think it's been in the Gardner Auditorium since I've been superintendent.
Yeah, it's been a long
We used to
time.
meet across the street.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Mass Club.
Even before that, we met.
Oh yeah, the Mason.
The Masons Lodge, yeah.
The Masons Lodge. I never attended one there. I
So
heard the
I've
stories.
been to the Masons Lodge. I've been to UMass,
Aha.
but I haven't attended one at the Gardner Auditorium.
Oh, first time for everything.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. And if you do plan on coming, I highly recommend taking a tour of the State House if you have not. So if anyone's going to come that would like a tour, please let me know so I can try to pre-arrange a tour. I'll try to get, there's a Senator Jake Oliveira, he knows absolutely everything about every brick, stone, statue, painting in the State House. He gets the best tours. But many other people are aware. He's a friend of MASC and a supporter of public education. So, okay, so does anyone have any questions or thoughts about Day on the Hill?
I'll be there.
Excellent.
I'll be jet lagged, but I'll be there.
Yeah, I think I can go.
That's
I'm
okay.
try to this year as well.
Yeah, it really is a great opportunity. It's so important for us to share our students' stories on Beacon Hill and on Capitol Hill. Everyone knows I was just in Capitol Hill last week. Had some meetings. Actually went to go sit in the gallery, which was a very interesting experience. And they were asking us for stories from our districts so that they could go back. We met with staffers because there was a vote happening while we were there. But they wanted to hear our students' stories. They wanted to hear our district stories. They wanted to hear our successes and our opportunities for improvement and what our challenges are. So I can't stress enough how important it is for us to share those stories on a regular, continued basis so that the focus remains on student success. So anyway, so that brings us to the next item, which is addressing the open meeting law complaint made by Peter Allegrini. This was something that we had addressed as a committee in executive session on December 22nd, which I will now review the results of that at this meeting. I apologize, I'm just flipping through. I wanted to get back to the file I had open. Okay, there it is. So I responded to this letter, to the complaint that was filed with the Carver Town Clerk's office. It was actually December 12, 2025. The complaint was filed by Mr. Peter Allegrini. It was regarding the December 8th, 2025 meeting minutes from the school committee workshop / retreat minutes from September 23rd of 2024 that were approved at that meeting. That meeting was held more than a year ago. That was one of his complaints. Also included in that was communications on the December 8th, 2025 agenda. Nothing more, no description of what communications are to be discussed. So I will address the first item, which is the meeting minutes from September 23rd, 2024. After a previous open meeting law violation was filed by Mr. Allegrini, we reviewed what minutes were outstanding. We saw that those minutes were outstanding, and in an effort to make sure that we approved all minutes, we decided to vote those as we had not done so in 2024. So that was bringing us to the point where we missed a meeting, we addressed it, we voted them, we knew they were late. We have been monitoring our minutes closer and will continue to do so moving forward as per our policy. And then in terms of the communications not having a description on our meeting agenda for December 8th, 2025, communications is a standing item on the agenda for the Carver School Committee. It is actually, if you were to look at our policies and go to policy BEDB, which is the agenda format. Below that is policy BEDB-E, which is the agenda format with an exhibit. So communications is a standing item on our agenda. And as earlier this evening, I addressed Superintendent Neve to ask him if there was anything under communications that was going to be discussed this evening. There was nothing, so it's always something that we address, that we recognize, and if there's something to be discussed in communications, we do so. If not, we simply recognize the category and we move on. So that is a practice that we will continue to follow. I did respond with a letter, and in that letter, I did reiterate that we would publicly acknowledge non-compliance with the open meeting law. we reviewed the open meeting law training documents, and they were shared. The updated slide deck from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees was shared with the committee. And we have made a commitment to ensure that moving forward, that we get our minutes approved in a timely manner. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add to my statement? Did I miss anything? Just wanted to double check. And along those lines, I know there was some miscommunication. I received an email about the ethics training. So I took the training. I guess there was something happening with records, so you might have received that email. I took it just to ensure that it's up to date. I know there was some glitch or something happening at the state level or something that they're working on it, but just wanted to note that that was sent out to everyone. And I think we might have done it last year. It's supposed to be like last year. It's like 1 year we recognize, then we take the training. So it changes.
Yeah, I was confused because I thought that, and I was like, I did
right?
work and this last
yeah,
year.
exactly.
So in the email, like
So I did it anyway. But that's also something that is available to the public if anyone so chooses to know where we are in our trainings. With that, there was a lot of information in this meeting tonight. I appreciate all the time and effort. There's so many hours behind the scenes that go into putting together all of these presentations, our agendas, the thought, the care with which our district operates in terms of supporting our students and supporting their families is really stellar. Hopefully things between now and the 9th, like we've mentioned, will change. But I implore people to please come to our budget hearing on February 23rd. That way you can express your concerns, or again, reach out to administration to directly express any of those concerns or ask for additional information so you can understand how some of the changes and reductions will affect your students. And with that, have a great February vacation, everyone.
Yes.
One quick thing I did want to mention. I just found out yesterday. I will report back to the committee at our next meeting. I am sitting on the Local Government Advisory Commission and the Executive Committee of the Local Government Advisory Commission with Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll and other members from the LGAC tomorrow afternoon. This is something that I will be attending for the next year in my role as Vice President. So I will ensure that I advocate on behalf of funding and revisiting Chapter 70 and so many things that need to be brought to where they are. IDEA, which was supposed to be fully funded at 40% at its inception, it's not there, all in due time. So I will do my best to advocate on behalf of our district and students across the Commonwealth for increased funding. So that is all I would like to share. Anyone have anything they'd like to share?
Happy February break.
Okay.
Welcome to Joe. Congratulations on getting through your first meeting. They're not all like this.
Nope.
And my wife mentioned to me that she saw on Instagram that the spring sports registration is open.
It is.
Ooh.
And I just wanted to point out, I did not receive any other notification of that. So I don't know if there's an email going out or something, but I haven't heard from her anywhere but from her. So
Okay.
spring
I will
registration is
make
open.
note of that. The spring registration is open.
Nice. Thank you for mentioning that because I hadn't seen anything either. So I will.
It's on the news
Check.
today, and also will be going out later this week on social media and school.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's open through March.
Like it just opened today.
Yeah, open today. It's open through the first week of March. I don't know the exact date. Do you know the exact date? It's open until March 8th. I want to say March 8th is the one that's coming in my head. It's first or second week of March it's open till. So we got a little bit of time, but we'll get that, make sure that communication gets out there.
Thank you.
See, another sure sign that spring is coming, Katie.
I just have to make it to Friday. That's I'm focused on Friday.
One day at a time.
I completely understand.
And the week before is always insane. So
No doubt. Thank you for what you do.
I love them.
Clearly. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? No? Okay, so if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn, that'd be amazing.
I move that we adjourn the February 9th open session of the Carver Schools Committee.
And I second.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second to end the meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.